Welcome to Paradelphia Radio. This is Rick Pruitt here once again in the backyard of my home during the COVID hell of 2020. And we're going to try take two for episode number 270. Mikey, are you there?
I'm here. Take two and go.
You guys were paying attention last week. We tried to do this show last week and we had all kind of technical difficulties with my mic getting some reverb. So we had to shut it down, but we're going to try it again. We don't quit, Mike.
We don't quit. We don't stop. Can't stop. Won't stop till I drop. Dab. No, but anybody who's been working from home during all this shit and has been dealing with coworkers and people that are at work or what have you, they all know that this COVID shit where we've got to do stuff remotely has caused a lot of headaches with technology. And every now and then, because this is how we have to do the show right now, we might have some technical difficulties. So we appreciate everybody not only understanding last week, but returning this week. And we're going to see if we can right this ship and get the show going.
All right. So to that end, in our, what do they call it? The green room here. We have Miss Jean Durkin. Jeannie is here. Are you there?
I'm here.
All right.
Look at you. Remember when we first started doing this and Jean couldn't figure out what to do? Now she's a pro. Now she's a pro at coming on and being remote and the video and the audio. She's like clockwork. She's got it.
And she's artistic because she's kind of off center. So it's kind of like it's got that, she's got that artsy feel. She's got composition going on. She made sure that she angled it right with the painting and the flowers and the plants in the background.
Okay. That's for my day job. That's my office for my day job. It's my angel wings.
You know what? We felt good about ourselves thinking you did it for us. And now you ruined it.
See, she's doing it in the right room. I've heard there's another room in that house not quite so done up so well.
Oh.
The red room.
The red room. That sounds like some stuff goes down in there.
This house is insane. This corner of my room right now is the only place that there is any sort of sanity.
Oh, I understand.
Seriously thinking about going down and getting a glass of wine on break.
Dude, there's a reason why we're doing this on the porch.
Yeah.
Wait, if that's the room of sanity, why are you in it? Because
it's not out.
So, Mike, before we get started, I have to bring something up here. I happened to notice while we were waiting for the show to start, you sent out a reminder on social media. And your reminder, I didn't catch the whole thing because I saw it on my watch real quick before the show started. But it started something like, lose your inhibitions, watch Paradelphia. Is that how it starts?
I don't know. Dude, I'm working on 4 hours of sleep. What does it say? I don't remember.
I think
it's lose all your inhibitions. Yeah, is that wrong?
I think you just copied and pasted one of your sexting texts into our social media.
Well, you know what? Maybe it works. Maybe people click on it now and they go, I want to lose my inhibitions. Look, whenever I get to words that are a little too long, I don't know what they mean. They sound good and it looks like it might get likes. So I put it up there.
He's got a thesaurus there looking through it during breaks.
Oh my God.
All right, so this week we are going to try, like I said, part 2 of the episode we did 2 weeks ago. And we started that episode with a discussion about remote viewing and how remote viewing, basically what remote viewing is in a nutshell is sort of like ESP. If I'm a remote viewer, then I can close my eyes, concentrate, think of a target that someone else has chosen that I don't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
And I can either do one of a couple things. If I'm really good, I can tell you what the target is specifically, like the Statue of Liberty or, the Eiffel Tower or whatever. Or most likely what people are going to do is to get flashes of something in their mind that will be clues as to what the final destination, the final target is. If it were the Statue of Liberty, I might say something like a lady. I see a lady. I see water. I see, I don't know, an American flag, something like that. And those clues aren't going to tell you literally exactly what the target was, but they're of a billion different things that you could have thought of. It's no coincidence that you thought of 3 or 4 aspects or descriptive aspects of what the target was, and that's what they would consider a hit, quote unquote, a hit in remote viewing. So we tried this ourselves, and Genevieve and her friend Steven did a online test, and we talked about it 2 weeks ago at the end of the show. And they came up pretty, they didn't do so well, but Steven had a few hits that, if I remember correctly, he was getting close, but it wasn't on the target at hand. It was like he would describe something that was a target coming up. The next
slide, the next image.
If it was slide number 7 was the desert, then he would say something like the color brown or the color tan. I was getting that, and slide number. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. If slide number 7 was like a rose, and he said, I'm getting tan color. I feel heat. It wouldn't have anything to do with the rose, but the next slide 8, would be the desert.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty impressive. I thought that was still impressive. It was for somebody like me to hear him being like one off, and like he said this, and then the next slide was very like similar to what he said. I was kind of impressed. I was like, wow, that's weird. That's still interesting. Yeah, and it doesn't, it's not going to always happen perfectly, but I mean, the way I look at it, how many billions of descriptive adjectives, colors, smells, whatever could you possibly think of? And then to get something that was relatively close to what the target was or the next target was. I mean, again, you're not hitting it dead on, but you're in the ballpark. Right. And if you're in the ballpark, that's something. In the ballpark is definitely something that makes you sit up and go, wow, it made me do it. It was definitely better than like the intro scene to like Ghostbusters, where like the person was getting absolutely wrong, and he keeps on telling the hot girl, no, you're close. No, but it was really, really cool, and I was highly impressed. And my mother, I want to say I'm sorry to my mother. My mother, a shout out to Toxic Mom, keeps on asking me to send her the link to where you're getting these because she wants to do it, and for 2 weeks I have not sent her a link. So, I can post that on. See, the problem with this is. And this is the problem I ran into this week. I was going to talk about this later in the show, but when we talked to Genevieve that week, 2 weeks ago, I sent the same link to everybody. So Jean said she didn't listen to that show, so she wouldn't have heard what Jen's answers were, but I obviously did. So I really couldn't take that same test because I know what those 10 targets were based on her descriptions. Right. So I had to find something else for myself to do. I did a different test. It was a little bit different, a little more detailed actually than that test was. And I'll talk about that later. But the point is that with your mom or anybody else who was listening, I can send that link out. But if you heard that show 2 weeks ago, then you already know what those targets were. Have you tested this theory to test and see that test is the same thing every time you do it? It is. Yeah, it is. Okay. All right. It's the same test. Yeah. So you got to Google the same thing. Ones. Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. So yeah, and there's other ones out there. Like I said, I found a different one for myself. But point being that if you heard that show, yeah, I can send the link out. So you can try and do the test, but you would have already heard the answers 2 weeks ago if you were listening. Right. But hopefully you all were. Were you? Were you really? No, I know you weren't. It's like, no, I wasn't. Listen, I was in my happy place. This, Gene, don't feel bad. This is show 270, and my own wife, I think, has listened to 4 shows, and the only reason she listened to 3 of those was because she was in studio. So, and even in studio, she was just trying to distract him the whole time and distract everybody else on the show. She was just being a pain in the butt. Right. All right. So we're going to start out this week. We're doing a little bit of news. We missed that last week. We were in the middle of doing the news last week when we kind of crapped out on our audio. So we're going to do the news this week, and then we'll come back and we'll start up our discussion about the remote viewing test.
From the 4 corners of planet Earth, from the far reaches of the known universe, you can run, but you cannot escape. Paradelphia News.
I love when Mike cosplays the news intro. Anybody watching online will know what I'm talking about.
I love the voiceover work that you get done for your little skits, the commercials. I love it. I want so much more to be done by whoever you get these done by. I want him to be the voice of Paradelphia and you to have just a nonstop array of sound clips from him. I love it.
I actually have 2 other commercials that I wrote about a month and a half ago that I haven't yet gotten the audio work done on, but I haven't written.
I'm chomping at the bit.
We'll get them. We'll get them eventually. All right. So first story here is from ScienceAlert.com. Prehistoric hell ant stuck in amber has been mauling its prey for 99 million years.
Whoa.
So this is kind of a throwback to the Jurassic Park movie, if you ever saw that. And if you haven't, where the hell have you been?
Yeah, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, it's been 25 years, guys. A long extinct lineage of insects known fondly as the hell ant has been discovered frozen in 99 million year old amber, with its scythe-like jaws still pinning its prey. According to scientists, this fierce predator is a newly identified species of prehistoric ant, and it's the first time that we've ever seen a hell ant actively feeding. Its meal is an extinct relative of the cockroach. Fossilized behavior is exceedingly rare, predation especially so, says Philip Barden, who studies social insect evolution at New Jersey Institute of Technology. As paleontologists, we speculate about the function of ancient adaptations using available evidence, but to see an extinct predator caught in the act of capturing its prey is invaluable. Ants are some of the most diverse creatures on Earth. To date, scientists have identified 12,500 species, and they think there are probably another 10,000 or so out there just waiting to be discovered. So, for 99 million years, this thing has been caught in the act of chewing its dinner.
That is crazy. That is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, these stories fascinate me. I see. You have to have an appreciation, I think, of history. Some people do, some people don't. Taryn doesn't. She doesn't get history.
Okay.
When I worked in Philly a few years ago, I walked by what am I saying here? Crap. What the hell's the place called in Philly? Independence Hall.
Bell?
Independence Hall. Well, Liberty Bell too, but Independence Hall. And I used to walk to a gym that was right behind where Independence Hall was. So I got to pass right by the building. And every day I passed that building, it was fascinating to me to think that like this is literally the same bricks that were there, during that time. And George Washington and Ben Franklin and these people that you think of as abstract historic figures, literally physically, just like I'm doing, walked up these steps and touched these buildings and things like that. So that's what I'm talking about with appreciation for history. And when it comes to this kind of stuff, again, this is fascinating in a different way. Like this is something 99 million years ago, there was no one here to see this. This was kind of, way well beyond before anybody would have been here to see it. And to think that we're seeing a scene play out in real time, caught up in this amber chunk that played out eons before anybody with eyeballs would have seen this, or any human with eyeballs at least. It just, I don't know, it's just fascinating to me.
It is.
To think about that.
It's something that we definitely 100% should not be looking at. We have it on the screen right now for the people that are watching live, and that is not any kind of imagery or act that we should be able to see because of how long ago that happened. And to have nature have preserved it so fine and so well that people, like, we're looking at the physical, actual insects caught, and then we're looking at a drawing depicting exactly what you're looking at. It's unbelievable. It's crazy, and it makes you feel like Jurassic Park could happen.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing.
and I would eat them, by the way. The chat room, Laura said I would eat them. I have eaten bugs many times.
Prehistoric ants?
Yes. But no, it's really cool. It's fascinating. 100% fascinating.
Well, they've regrown. I think it was a fern or something. They found I think it was in Siberia. They found frozen, and it still had spores on it. And they literally regrew this fern for the first time. I think it was, I don't know, 25,000 years or something like that. That had gone extinct ages ago. And so just stuff like that. It's wild, and it concerns you too. Because, I remember talking about this in one of my classes in school 4 or 5 years ago. There was a lake, I think it was in Russia somewhere, that they drilled down to, and it was a pristine lake. It was under like a mile of ice. And so this lake hadn't actually been connected to, like, it hadn't been reached by any living thing. And I think they said it was something like 50,000 years or something like that. Like it was, or it might have been a million years. I don't know. It was some ridiculous amount of time. And they drilled down, and people were concerned that, like, you know, if you drill down into this lake, we weren't around back then. And God knows what kind of creatures or diseases or viruses or bacteria were around back then. And if it were to get out and it were to affect us negatively, no human's going to have a immunity to this because no one has ever been in contact with it. Kind of like we're going through now.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
But I mean, even more so, like it would, at least this is something that, you know, you kind of know what it is and they just have to figure it out. But something from that long ago, I mean, God knows what it could be or how it could affect living things if it was, you know, thriving a million years ago.
And my whole, like, we talked about Jurassic Park, and when I remember watching that movie in theaters and thinking to myself, like, the science behind this almost seems legit. Right. I remember talking with friends and saying how us as human beings are not, we want to explore so much that we would go for the unknown so much that it would take us out.
Yeah.
Like, we would want to regrow dinosaurs. We would want to investigate something that's been dormant for millions of years that we don't know what's going, because it's just that curiosity, that want to be the first one to do it, or the want to be rich because you're the first one to do it.
You know that saying, ask for forgiveness, not permission?
Exactly, yeah.
That's what the human race does.
Exactly.
We do, and then expect it to all just work out. And it may not always.
Exactly.
We'll see.
So we see this kind of stuff, and it kind of, it's fascinating to me, but it's also kind of scary every time you hear about them, you know, mutating cells or growing this from nothing or pulling DNA out of a fossilized something. You know what I mean? All the times I hear this kind of stuff, I'm like, these mofos are getting just that much closer. Right. Just that much closer.
You're going to trip on the wrong barrier one time.
You know, investigating someplace that's uncharted. You're going to find something you don't want to find.
Right.
And, you know, you're going to find a Bigfoot, and then he's going to kill us all.
Right. Right. Well, there was a book written. It's actually a TV show now. It's pretty good. It's on Netflix, called V Wars, written by a guy named Jonathan Mayberry.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to read a good horror author, not named Stephen King, Jonathan Mayberry has a few good books like this, and he wrote a book called V Wars, which basically the premise of V Wars. You know how people they say that we have junk DNA in our system. So we have DNA that they know what it does, and we have other DNA that they call junk DNA because they don't know what it does or what it's there for or why it's there. It's just kind of there. So the premise of this book was that these guys were, I think it was in the Arctic, they were doing some kind of a test in the Arctic, and they released this virus that got into one of the climbers, and it was a virus that triggered vampirism. And the interesting thing about this book, it then went back into the folklore, because we've talked about this a few times on the show about how different cultures have different types of vampires. They do different things. They look different. They act different. Everybody has a different, right? Yeah, everybody has a different story depending on whether you're Japanese or Polynesian or Canadian or American Indian or whatever. And the interesting thing about this book was that they used all of that together. And what happened in the book was that this virus attacked the junk DNA in our system. And part of that junk DNA was tied to our ethnicity. And the ethnicity that we were triggered the vampire we became. So if you're a Latin man or woman, then you became whatever the folklore vampire was down in South America, let's say. If you were Norwegian descent, then you became the vampire that they talked about in Norway. So, and it kind of, and the idea was that at one time, ages ago, these creatures were all over the world. And that's why we have the folklore that we do today in all different regions, because people are remembering this like innate human memory of these vampires that existed in those regions with all these different characteristics. But this virus attacked modern man and started turning you into different types of vampires depending on your cultural background and your ethnicity. It was really interesting. It was an awesome book, and it's actually on TV. It's on Netflix now. It's called V Wars.
I will have to not read the book, but I will go watch the V Wars episodes on Netflix, and because it definitely sounds pretty cool. And anytime you got vampires that don't sparkle, I'm all in. True Blood, awesome.
Yeah, I don't think any of them sparkle.
No, but I love that there's so many different aspects to. I've always been fascinated by the whole vampire lore and what goes into it and all the different stories that have been told throughout the years. I think my first introduction to vampires was the Lost Boys. My first real introduction to them, which was fascinating to me.
We just watched that last night.
Oh, did you? Does it still hold up?
Oh yeah, I saw that in the theater for the first time when I was 16 years old.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was awesome.
I must have watched it way years later because you're like 60.
Not quite. Almost. Not quite.
But no, it's very cool. But V War is definitely something I'd check out. Netflix, I love Netflix. They just keep on adding really good content, and it's definitely something else I can go watch instead of The Office.
Yeah. All right, so we talked about Jurassic Park, so now we're going to flip gears and we're going to talk about what could wind up being Planet of the Apes.
Oh.
What?
Yeah, well, hang on. Hold on. I'll explain. So this story...
Where's my wine?
Gene's like, hold on. What? Wait, what? So this story is called, see the headline here says knife-wielding baboons seen at safari park.
Wow.
Knife-wielding baboons. So baboons at Knowsley Safari Park in Merseyside, which I believe is in England, have reportedly taken to wielding knives and sharp tools. While having monkeys jumping on top of your car as you drive around the reserve has long been one of the main attractions of going to a safari park, less appealing is the prospect of running into a group of mischievous primates armed with knives, screwdrivers, and chainsaws. Kind of like that. You have to watch the live stream because Mike's putting up some funny shit. According to a recent report, however, such a scenario might have actually happened, sort of. Staff at the park raised the alarm after becoming concerned that some visitors were deliberately handing knives and other dangerous items to the monkeys, quote, for a laugh.
Oh my God.
It's highly unlikely, however, the creatures would actually be able to harm anyone with them, or so they say. The baboons have been found with knives and screwdrivers, said one worker. I do wonder if it's some of the guests handing them out. Now, if it's not the guests handing them out, then you got bigger problems because the monkeys are breaking into like tool sheds and shit. Then you do have Planet of the Apes. There have even has been a report of a baboon lugging around a small chainsaw. However, park officials have expressed doubts over whether every such sighting is actually factual. We believe there are stories that have grown in exaggeration as they've been retold, with embellishment to make the objects that are sometimes found in the enclosure seem more exciting and unbelievable, said a park spokesperson. They had better hope so. Mike has a baboon with a, what is it, an AK-47?
It's a sniper rifle.
Sniper rifle. So that's...
They're bad enough on their own, baboons.
Oh, I know.
With weapons.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I've been to a safari park in a while, but I do remember. It's been a while.
But, but baboons and other types of species of monkey and chimpanzees and all, they've been known and seen to, walk upright, to utilize tools in certain fashions. I mean, them utilizing knives and knowing what they are and you knowing how to use them isn't that far-fetched. I mean, they're not going to go as far as Planet of the Apes and take over and start riding horses. But I would never want to actually physically hand a chimpanzee or a monkey a knife.
Yeah.
No.
Or hammer,
Gene's like,
anything.
or hammer, and Gene's like, no. No.
I just donated money to a painting monkey.
A painting monkey?
Yes, he's a monkey.
This could have been a news story in itself.
I know.
Do
It's
tell.
true though. He's
Why?
a monkey because he's a monkey, and they took him to this monkey refuge with a couple other monkeys, and to ease his nerves, his anxiety, I guess, they gave him a paintbrush, figuring he would just play with it. And he started painting, so she gave him some paint. So he started making paintings, so she gave him some whatever the heck you paint on. And he started making paintings to the point where he had showings and people were having auctions to buy this guy's paintings. And they saved the monkey refuge with the paintings from this monkey.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
I'm telling you.
That's why I say that art, being as subjective as it is, like I could throw paint on a wall, call it art, and somebody would say, yeah, I'll pay $5,000 for that.
Now, I recently went to the Six Flags Safari because during coronavirus, well, it's still going on, but during the height of it, Six Flags here in Jersey was trying to figure out a way to still get people to come in, so they did the drive-through safari, which they had stopped. And driving through them, and you don't get the monkeys. And I'm very disappointed that you don't get the monkeys doing this anymore, because you would get the monkeys on there destroying your antenna, your windshield wipers, and pissing and shitting all over your car. I want that experience back, God damn it. But you 100% could, if you wanted to do some crazy stuff, just hand out weapons to these monkeys, and they would take them and run with them, and
or paintbrushes,
or just give them a paintbrush and some paint.
Just saying, they're smart enough to know if you give them a paintbrush, they can make a painting. Imagine what they could do with a weapon.
They're smarter than the people buying the paintings.
Oh,
they're trying to save the monkey refuge.
Yeah,
the monkey refuge. Rick,
hey,
what is wrong with you?
All right,
you got save the monkeys.
All right, you got Vincent Van Banana there and saving.
Just don't give them any,
I mean, if they gave him a paintbrush to calm him down, they should have just given him a joint.
But that is true. I've seen elephants painting. I've seen dogs that paint. I mean, but really, it's
Dolphins.
you just give them a paintbrush and then they just put it all over the place. Just put it all over.
He's a little better than that.
See, this makes me
see if I can find it.
This makes me feel bad because I was all proud of myself because I went to one of those paint places where Taryn and I went a couple of years ago and we did paintings. And I was all proud of myself because I did a painting. But now, like, monkeys and dolphins are doing this shit. Like,
they're getting paid.
And they're getting paid. Yeah, they're making more than I am.
The dolphins don't really do so well.
Well, they have no hands. So
right.
Maybe Rick, maybe you could pose for a monkey.
This monkey's internationally known for his paint. I mean, he's more famous than we are.
What?
He has more likes than you, Mike.
Yeah.
He's not Harambe famous.
He's also not dead.
He's not Harambe famous.
He's not
dead like Harambe. Do you remember when Great Adventure was Jungle Habitat?
Yeah, that's where I went to. Great Adventure.
Yeah. And we used to have like vinyl roofs, like your car roof would be half metal, half vinyl, and they would rip the crap out of your vinyl roof.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Me and my parents and my brothers used to go, and the monkey and everything would just the baboons, but also the giraffes would be able to stick their heads in your car, and people they would tell you not to feed them, but you'd always see the cars that had some food to feed the animals. Yep.
Right.
Did they do that? Were they around this time, or did you just?
No, we drove through, and the animals were allowed to come up to your car. The giraffes, everything, you had to stop for them. And 100%, if one of those whatever big animal wanted to charge the car, a friggin' what are the big birds called? I'm trying to think of the big bird name.
Emus.
Yeah, if an ostrich or an emu, any of those animals wanted to charge the car, they absolutely could. The only things that were caged away from us were the elephants, the lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. and the monkeys. Those are the only ones. And we did get to see bears humping. And it didn't seem like the one that was getting humped wanted to be humped. And the one that was doing the humping wasn't going to take no for an answer. And that bear wanted something more than honey.
Like a club on a Friday night.
Yep. It basically was. And then first thing we do is start taking pictures and video. Look at what they're doing.
All right, so to divot off of humping bears.
I mean, I didn't hump a bear.
Because there's no way I can segue off of that. Let's get into our discussion here about remote viewing. So what I did, like I said at the top of the show, what I did was send out a link to this test online to Jen, to Mike, to all these guys. Jen did hers a couple weeks ago. We talked to her about it. Now, Jean, you said you did yours, and the interesting thing about Jean, and I asked you this last time we talked, and I'll reiterate the question so you can answer it again. Anybody who's followed the show over the years knows that Jean is a psychic medium.
Mm-hmm.
And as a psychic medium, that kind of, this is playing into your strength, obviously, with coming into a test where you have to discern something from a distance. Well, there's not much further distance than, the other side. And you can contact them and do that. So with that ability at your disposal, was this a help to you in doing this test?
Only in the sense of my being able to quiet my mind, because that's what I do when I'm getting ready to check into the other side. And I meditate all the time, and I'm forever trying to get into that sweet spot of nothingness of the mind.
Right.
So that was kind of like that. And then, because what happens when you try and do that, the first thing that happens is you start to see shapes and you start to see colors and things start coming in, just like it did for me in this test. I don't know about anybody else, but that's how it worked for me.
So at the beginning, I know the end result was different, but the beginning of this test, when you're talking about you clear your mind and then you start having shapes, colors, sounds, or whatever, is that the same as when you do your channeling mediumship, or is that something different?
It's the same process. Like that, I'll start there.
Okay.
And I get into that kind of meditative state. Then I have to go somewhere else, because you need to raise your vibration to do the reading. I have to get
to a different level.
To the next. It's not a calm state. It's a more excited state almost. I got to raise my energy level really high.
But internally and externally, you look like because I've seen your readings. You're not jumping all around. You're sitting calmly, but internally, you're saying you're raising your energy level.
Internally, yeah, it's like the Eagles at the Super Bowl.
Okay, interesting.
That's
so,
like,
huh?
That's what's like going on the inside.
Just like it. All right. So the way this test worked, it was an explanation of. They actually explain it 2 or 3 times before you actually do the test. But basically, the gist is there are links, and the links have gibberish numbers and letters on them. I don't think they really mean anything.
Right.
And there's 10 of them. And the idea is that before you click the link, you are supposed to clear your mind, like Jean just said, and try and think of what the target is behind that link. And once you have some kind of an idea, whether it's a specific idea or if it's just shapes, colors, scents, textures, whatever it might be, write them down or note them somewhere somehow. Once you write down all of your observations that you get come to you, then you click open the link and you see what the target is, and you see if you in any way got close. Now, the difference between the test you did and the test I did, mine was essentially the same thing, but mine had a little questionnaire to it. Before I opened the link, there was different questions that said, did you see shapes? Did you see colors? What colors did you see? And then it gave a line for like descriptive adjectives. So what it did when I put that stuff in there was that it ranked my score from 0 to 100. 100 being I hit it dead on, 0 being I got nothing, nowhere near it. Some of them were kind of weird because, I guess it was up to the system to decide how close I got based on what I put in there. And I scored, anywhere from, I think it was 20 to 70 or 80% or something like that. We'll talk about that in a minute, but we'll go to yours. But just to show you the difference between the 2 tests. But Jean's was just a more straightforward, think of something, write stuff down, and then click the link.
He kept saying, don't think of the object, just because try to close your mind or empty your mind by thinking of the code.
Right.
And don't name it. Don't, I'm like, well, what do you want me to do with it? If I see it, am I supposed to date? He wanted more of a description, I think, which was a little
right. Well, I think that's what most people like. I think what they're getting at is most people aren't going to go Grand Canyon. They're going to go sand, sun, a hole in the ground, or something like,
Right.
whatever. If you're good enough to do a flat out, Grand Canyon, Eiffel Tower, the moon, whatever, then you need to be working for the government in some capacity.
Well, that was the hardest part for me.
What was the hardest part?
Because I would see something and I'd be like, okay, I wouldn't know how to describe it in the terms that they wanted it described. Like I would see it as like a mountainous plateau in the desert.
Okay.
But he wanted me to draw. I don't draw, so it was that kind was a little difficult.
Well, you could just
try and do it that way.
You could just write mountainous plateau or something. Nobody's expecting people to draw. I can't draw either.
That's what I thought he wanted me to do.
So, getting into now that we've described what we're doing, how did you do, and what was the experience like for you?
I did okay. I did. It said to do 5 out of 10, so I did 5 out of 10. But I didn't do I did the first 3, and then I did 7 and 9 because I wanted to take them out of order to see how that would work.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one, I was very close. It was the mountain plateau thing. That's what I had.
What was the picture? I forget what the picture was.
I don't have it with me.
Well, here, I can probably pull it up here. Well, you go ahead and keep describing them. I'll go back and I'll.
All right. The second one, I was trying to describe it the way he had it. I'm trying to remember. I don't have my notes in front of me, but I had like a lot of circles. It was iffy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third one was strange because I kept seeing something like going up into the sky. Almost, I would describe it almost like the white afterburn of a rocket. I kept seeing it like tall and like that.
So going back to the first one, the target looks to me like it's a snowy, like an Antarctic scene with a big balloon. Is that what you were talking about when you say the plateau?
Okay, so I had them backwards.
Okay.
The one with the circles was my second, what I thought was my second one. So that was that one.
Okay.
So I had the shape right.
So the second one, all right. The computer.
I don't know where my notebook is.
Yeah, these might be out of order. I think they're the same pictures, but they drop them in different orders. So I'm not going to have this picture lining up exactly with what you're saying. So go on.
And
I was trying to find a picture.
The third one was and it turned out to, I don't know what it was. It was a bunch of people in the desert standing around what looked like a large pole. So I got the shape right. I think in most of them, I got the shape right.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because I had an experience that was similar to that. So did you have, the shape of things was the kind of the thread that ran through your guesses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
okay.
There was a little desert in there in one of them. I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was desert. It was like a plateau, and it was desert, and
the picture. That was the picture. Or that was your vision.
My vision was the desert and the plateau, and I think it was a picture of a desert somewhere, a mountain or something like that in there.
That's pretty damn close, yeah.
It was. I got maybe the region right, or I got the shape right.
Well, right, but that's something. See, I think you're looking at this. You're being harsh on yourself because you're so used to being so accurate with your mediumship. But this is, like you say, this is something a little bit different. You're not you're not necessarily trained in this that like you are in mediumship.
And it was different than I would normally remote view. I don't do it often because it's too much pressure for me. But like on a missing person case,
Right.
you know, and you're describing. I'm
Right.
driving down a 2-lane highway, and I've got trees to my right, and there's a metal barrier that separates the road from the thing, and then there's a lake, and then there's
Right.
an intersection, and
But my point is when you're doing readings, like you're doing a reading and you're saying I'm getting a male figure, it's a father figure, blah blah. Like you're getting pretty
Right.
specific with what you're saying.
right,
People are sitting there and they're expecting they're going to get either a person, maybe an animal, but a person most likely.
right,
So when you're describing the person, like you're going to come pretty close no matter what you say, and then you're going to expand on that and narrow it down.
right.
But with this could have been anywhere in the entire world or universe.
It could have been anything.
So for you to get
Right.
the desert and have
Okay.
it be a picture of somewhat of a desert, and you're saying, "Oh, I wasn't that close." Yeah, you were. Yeah, you
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I that okay.
because
Right.
the odds of you hitting by saying I'm getting a media, like when you're doing mediumship, it's a person. I see a person. I see a girl. Okay, you're going to expand on that, but
Right.
but to say you're getting a male or female figure, well, that's that's the beginning of the reading,
Right. And then
and
it goes
obvious-
deeper.
right? And then it goes deeper.
Yeah.
But with this, there's no narrow expectation of
Right.
like I didn't say all these pictures were places in South Jersey, and
Right.
you know what I'm saying. So you
Yeah.
didn't have that narrow vision that you would have with doing a reading and knowing that yes, I'm going to get some kind of a connection between a person and
Right.
an animal or whatever. So my point is that you did pretty well, very well, in fact,
Right.
if you got the desert and that was a picture that looked anything like a desert.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take your explanation then, because I was pretty beating myself up.
I
It
think
was harder than I thought it was going to be.
you're being hard on yourself. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So was that was the last one you did, the fifth one? I forget what number you were on. I don't know. But anyway, point being that
My book's over there, I think. Go ahead.
as opposed to being specific about what the exact numbers and what you did. So you said shapes was
Yeah.
something that you found to be the most accurate aspect.
Yeah. I got 3 out of 5 shapes.
Okay. See, that it would have been interesting. I'll have to send you the test that I did because it's interesting. And again, I don't know what the computer how the algorithm was written or whatever to say you got 30 out of 100 or 80 out of 100 or whatever. It scores you. I thought I did badly on some, but they seem to think I did well, and then vice versa on some of them.
Right.
So who knows? But like I said, it was a test where basically you had to fill out a little 5 or 7 questionnaire.
Mhm.
Do you see shapes? Do you see colors? What colors do you see? And then on the bottom, it had you fill in descriptive words.
Okay.
Blue, cotton feel, I don't know, sunshine, whatever, smoky smell, something like that, whatever it might have been. And then it took the information that you put in there and it ran whatever algorithm it runs
Okay.
against the target picture and said, okay, you scored a 41 out of 100. Now, what that means exactly, I don't know, because it didn't explain how they came up with those numbers exactly, like how they were weighting their, do smells count more than colors? Like it didn't explain that.
And it was different too. Like the first one, and I kept getting the circles and the round circles, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this? What
Yeah.
I was expecting something.
I think the hardest part of this, honestly, was clearing my mind, especially once I started doing it.
Right.
I heard a technique one time or read about it. I'm not sure if I heard or read about it, where somebody was talking about doing meditation and having to clear their mind. And they said they physically, I think the guy said he opened a window and imagined himself looking out the window or throwing something out the window, and in that kind of took the place of clearing your mind.
Mhm.
So I kind of had the same thing. Like I closed my eyes and I envisioned myself in a room, opening a window, looking out into the black nighttime.
Right.
And I imagined, if you can, I don't know why this popped in my head and know how I did it, but I just did it this way. I imagined that house being kind of in the middle of a giant. You ever see the thing at the amusement park, the gravitron that goes around and around, and you kind of stick to the side?
Yeah.
That machine. So imagine being in the middle of that and not, you're not spinning, but you're in the middle of it and it's spinning around you, and it was just like scenes, like pictures all around you, and then whatever it stopped on was the picture or the color or the shape or whatever that I wrote down, because that was kind of the first thing that came into my mind after I had cleared it. That's just how I did it. You can do it any number of ways, obviously, kind of like you always tell us with meditation and your readings and things like that. Like everybody has their own thing. But I got fairly close. I got a couple of them. I got in the 80s. I think I did. There was 10 of them. I think my overall score, that you do all 10 of them, and then they give you a final score, which is the average of all your scores. And my average score, I believe, was 42.
Wow, that's not bad.
Which, I mean, it doesn't, it's below 50%. But again,
Right.
I had no expectation of being in any way accurate with this. And so to get 42%, you're just below half. For somebody doing it for the first time with no expectations, I guess that's not too bad, So I'll find this link.
All right.
And I'll send it to you, and I'll post it, because I know Mike said his mom was looking to do it, and I'm sure other people are going to want to try this, and it is fun. It's interesting to see how perceptive you are, how psychic you are. But it's just one of those things where it's kind of like if you don't play the piano and you don't know you know how to play, and then you kind of sit down and go, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, it's just one of those things. I mean, you said when you were younger that you realized very young that you had this ability to do mediumship. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you didn't attempt or try to do that. It just kind of happened.
No.
It just kind of came to you. Yeah.
Right.
And that's how a lot of people, I'm sure, are. If you're good at baseball, if you're good at a young age, you just are.
Right.
Like I was okay, but there were kids that were plenty better than me, and they were 6, 7 years old. Like you're not going to practice baseball at 2 years old and be driven. I mean, for the most part.
The thing too about this is, and I say this all the time, is that everybody has the ability to connect in some way.
Yeah, and it would be interesting to see. Like, what I might do with this is,
I'm going to get you one of these days. You,
She's talking to Mike. For anybody not watching, she's talking to Mike because Mike's
sorry
online.
I'm making faces and doing stuff. But so Jean swears up and down, one of these days.
Yeah, one of these days. Like,
I'm going to read you one of these days, Michael.
It was Ralph Cramden, right?
Yes.
One of these days.
One of these days.
To the moon, Mike.
Yeah, with my brain.
So no, what I was going to say is it'd be interesting to go back and revisit this again. Maybe periodically to try, like kind of like with playing the piano or playing baseball or anything. Right. If you practice it, you may get better. Right. So the point being that if we as a group say, okay, let's try and do this every couple, 3 weeks. We'll try the test again every couple of weeks, and or try a new test, or what, we'll figure it out. Right. And just try, or we can do it ourselves. Like that was my original idea was to have ourselves do this among ourselves. Like I would pick 5 targets that Jean didn't know about. And I'd say, okay, Jean, target 1 is, and I'd have it here. And then you would write down your observations. It's kind of the same thing, only you're doing it, among ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But however we do it, we'll practice it for a few times and then see if the scores increase, to see if our accuracy increases over time as you go on and do this. And maybe this is like a muscle, so to speak, that you can build in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you think it is?
Yeah.
So you think that about mediumship too, and I don't get that.
Why?
I don't know, because I've never. I don't know if there's this is a little bit easier to objectively test than mediumship. That's very, very subjective. So I'm not sure how we would do. I mean, I would be open to doing something like that if you can figure out a way to try and figure out this type of dynamic for specifically for mediumship. Do you know of anything that you might be able to suggest for that?
Like
Some
how
kind
to teach it?
Yeah, I guess to teach it a little bit, but to test it mainly, just to test it, to see, you know what I'm saying? Like we can pick targets and say, okay, you were pretty close to this target. But with mediumship, it's a whole other ballgame. It's not picking a target. So is there a way that you can objectively test that? You know what I'm saying?
I guess not. Just usually because a lot of times if I start my readings, or especially if I'm doing like platform, if I'm in front of a lot of people,
right?
Because you have to be quick. So I usually try and come in with like 5 pieces of evidence. Okay, I have a male, I have a father figure. He is, from California or the West Coast, or he had a boat.
Right.
He's showing me a boat, like that kind of stuff, and to narrow it down to who I'm going to. But it's usually quick and right out of the.
Right, and the I have a male, I have a guy, I have a whoever. That's the part that tripped me up because I don't have a guy. I could try and do this and go, I got nothing.
I got a guy at the supermarket. He cuts my meat.
I got nobody. I'm not seeing anybody.
I got nobody.
Yeah, and we use like on this level or father figure, or because they feel a different way. If you think about how you feel about a brother versus how you feel about a father, it comes across in a feeling as well. So it's kind of a little bit of both. Okay,
so it's more of a how do I say this? So when you say, for example, when you're doing a reading for me, and you're saying, I feel I have a male father figure coming to me. What that means, objectively, what that means for you is that you have this feeling that you recognize from being around your own male father figures. Not necessarily that this is your male father figure, but that you have a feeling that is similar to when you were around your own male father figures.
Not my own, but just in general.
Just in general.
Like a father figure versus a grandfather figure. Like if you think about how you would feel about a grandfather versus a father, they're two different, not necessarily yours. Mike could be talking about his father versus his grandfather. If you're talking about it and you're thinking about it, it's a different feeling.
Yeah. See, that's weird because to me that would be personal. Like I know how I feel about my own grandfather. But to say I feel a general grandfather feeling, well, I don't know what that is because all I know is my own life. Like I don't know what does a grandfather feel like. You know what I'm saying? It's just a weird way to look at it. I'm not sure if I would understand what that feeling is supposed to feel like. Does that make any sense? You're laughing at me.
It just sounded weird. I don't know what a grandfather feels like. Just to me, it sounded weird, just awkward. It made me want to go away.
So anyway,
yeah, because there's a lot. It's kind of it's a feeling, but it's also a knowing as well. Yeah.
Interesting. So I'll finish up with this tonight. This happened. I want to tell a little story here. It's not real long, but it's interesting. We talked about dreams a lot on the show, and I, just like anybody else, I have dreams, and they are what they are, and they, you wake up and that you've had a dream, and they all pretty much feel the same in terms of they aren't the same plot line and they aren't the same people and so forth, but you kind of have that feeling like, oh, this was a dream. So the other day I was laying here on the couch. It was the middle of the afternoon. Taryn was actually on the phone with one of her clients. So it was like 2:00 in the afternoon, and I was exhausted that day, and I just laid down and I drifted off to sleep on the couch. And I believe I heard in real life, like outside on my street, I heard the Mr. Softy jingle. The jingle,
Yeah.
So I'm asleep now, or I'm in some liminal state between sleep and awake. But in my mind, almost like now I've done past life regressions, And when you do past life regression, someone is talking to you and guiding you to do the regression. So you hear this voice that is the other person in the room guiding you. What happened to me was in my sleep, I heard a voice, the same type of guiding voice. I don't know if it was mine, someone else's, but what it said to me was something to the effect of use the music to go deeper. And my mind said, okay. And so I heard this music and I wound up in my own mind in my mom and dad's house as a child. And the truck was outside. The Mr. Softy truck was outside. It was a scene from my childhood. It isn't a scene I remember. It's not like, oh, this was a thing that happened on this day. It was just a generic scene that could have been any time in my childhood. Say I was maybe 8, 9, 10 years old, and I was standing in the living room. It was a bright, sunny day, and I heard the song outside. But the thing that was interesting about this, and it's hard to put into words, it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like it was like, Mike, you like doing the VR stuff.
Right.
It felt like VR. Like a dream feels like watching TV.
Mm-hmm.
This felt like VR. This felt like I was sitting there in the room with a 360 perspective. I had this feeling of, and I tried to explain this to Taryn the other day, and I couldn't really get the words for it, but it felt like I had this feeling of being a kid, meaning I didn't think about it wasn't like I thought, oh, I'm a kid now. I just was. And I had the same, like, it was a sense of security of being home as a child, the sense of, the excitement at the ice cream truck. It was literally like turning into an 8 or 9 year old child for that moment. And it happened, and it was just the scene. Nothing really happened. There were no other people there. It was just me in the living room on a sunny day. And then I came out of it, and I woke up, and I was very disoriented for a second because I wasn't sure what just happened, because it felt so different than a regular dream. But the interesting things were that the guiding voice that said, use the music, which I don't know where the hell that even came from. And then to just go there and be in that 360, like, inclusive environment, which is very different from observing around you in a dream. I can't explain that, but it happened. And it was very weird. Very, very weird. So
I have dreams every now and then, kind of similar to what you're describing there. I mean, I wouldn't say, it's not like you're very specific with the childhood aspect of it, feeling like you're a kid, but still having so much clarity as to what was going on. And that whole thing of use the music, that's creepy, dude. But I've had those dreams where you're in them, and it's just, it's so different than anything else as far as the realism of that dream, like so different than any other dream. And it happens so scarce, where it's a whole nother, it's like you're in another dimension of being.
It was like time travel.
It's more so than a dream that you realize you're dreaming and you go, oh shit, I'm dreaming. You go to like try and fly, or you go try to do something like the lucid dreams or dreams where you wake up and you try to remember what happened. It's totally different than any of those. It really is like time travel or just being teleported into some area while you're sleeping. It's very strange and very interesting.
Right. Your soul travels when you sleep.
I don't have one.
You do.
No, I don't.
You do. Trust me.
My mother has told me so many times I don't have a soul. Are you calling my mother a liar?
He sold his to the devil years ago.
That's how I got toxic.
So your soul travels while you sleep?
If your soul travels while you sleep, my soul goes to some weird places.
Yep.
So does mine.
Yeah, I imagine it would.
High five to the weirdos.
Taryn has some. We got to get Taryn on here one time, and she'll tell you about some dreams.
I was going to say, she's one, man. She's all over the place.
Dude, she has epic dreams. Like, I have scenes that play out, and I might remember a snippet of conversation or some scenery. She has plot lines, like literal plot lines that play out in her dreams. It's bizarre. So we'll do another show on dreams soon.
Yeah,
and I think what you heard was probably one of your spirit guides directing you where they, kind of guiding you.
Maybe. I don't know. It was weird. It was very, very weird.
But it's that outside voice that you hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
See, you're more like me than you thought.
Oh boy, you know what that means.
That's scary. I'll
Grow
be
your
doing,
hair long, start wearing
yeah.
glasses.
Start feeling a tap on my shoulder. It's your spirit guide. It's me. All right, so we're going to wrap things up for the night. So I want to thank Jean for coming on, Mr. Mike for producing the show again. And thank you guys.
Adorable like that.
Thank you guys for tuning in to wherever you're watching, Facebook, YouTube, wherever it might be, and listening if you listen to the podcast later on. And we'll be back. I'm going to try and make it back next week. I have a chemo treatment on Tuesday. That's usually a rough week, so sometimes I can do it Thursday, sometimes I can't, here and there. I was telling Mike the week after that on the 1st, number one, I start my job. I'm back to work again. Remote teaching. Fun time.
You're remote teaching.
Well, I'm remote teaching from my school. So the kids aren't there. But I have to go in.
Okay.
But that day is also the day that we had. I don't think I've said this on the air, but you guys, I've posted something a couple months ago about two of our animals passing away at the beginning of late May, early June, or mid-June.
Yeah. On
top of that, about 3 weeks ago, we found out that one of our other dogs had cancer in her leg. Thank you, Laura. And so the good news is that we did test and it did not spread in her system. The bad news is that because it's in her leg and it's inoperable, they're going to have to take her leg. So the only way she's going to survive this is if we take her leg and she becomes a tripod. So that's going to happen on the 1st as well. So that Thursday, it's going to kind of be up in the air because, we don't know how that's going to play out with her being having to get around the house and Taryn needing help caring for her and things like that. So I'm going to try my best to do a show next week because I'm probably not going to be doing one the first week of September. But we'll see how that plays out. But hopefully by the next week in September, we'll have things a little more in hand, and that's the beginning of our spooky season running into Halloween. So we're going to try and get some cool spooky shows on for you.
Think it'll be a little normal this year?
I've got some ideas. Oh, I hope so. Yeah, last year was not fun. This was the time of year last year when I got my cancer diagnosis. This has been like the year from hell for us. So that being the case, hopefully this year's Halloween season will be a lot more fun, and I'm going to try and line up some guests and do some fun stuff on air, and maybe some extra stuff if I can find a way to go about doing some videos, or I don't know. We'll find something fun to do. Going outside, getting into the world, meeting people, doing air high fives.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So again, I want to thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for showing up and being on the show. And until next time, we are Paradelphia. We are out of here.